what's going on, everybody? Christopher Inks, TexasWest Capital. Mr. Andrew Parrish with nothing under his name this week. I think we'll give him about 5 minutes to come up with something. Yeah, and I think Tillman will be in at some point after he's done getting his coffee. I mean, we supposed to wait for him or something? I don't know. Anyway, man, so really a couple of big news events this week as far as Bitcoin goes. I know you've been trumpeting it quite a bit here with Morgan Stanley, the little white glove kind of bank there doing their thing, saying, hey, you know what? We still think there's room, enough so that we're going to offer our own product here, Bitcoin ETF. And I think they did Solana as well, didn't they?
They did Solana, they did Bitcoin, and this morning they announced Ethereum as well. So to put that into context and understand what's going on here, Morgan Stanley is not meaningfully in the ETF game. Right. They don't have, 400 ETFs like Van Eck does or BlackRock does or what have you. They're in the business of wealth management. They're in the business of, on the margins, bond desk, trade desk, IPO involvement, right? So they're a global investment bank, which makes probably about 70% of their revenue from pure wealth management. So all that being said is they're a tour de force, so to speak, globally as it relates to wealth management. So there's so much demand. Let me rephrase that. There's enough demand for them to say, we have to get on this train, or we can just keep offering product from other providers associated with crypto, or we can make a good portion of that money ourselves. And so I think Morgan Stanley has like 20 total ETFs. 20. And most of them came from small little transactions they did where they bought Eaton Vance. Like Eaton Vance was a big issuer. Eaton Vance previously was a meaningful issuer. I don't know if you remember these, Chris, but unit investment trusts. So UITs. Yeah. Those were the precursors to ETFs, right? Where they weren't necessarily actively managed in the same way that ETFs aren't, but they were there. It was daily liquidity, right? So back then, 20 years ago, mutual funds, they ruled the world. But you couldn't trade them during the day. They would just reset their pricing at the end of the day because everything that was inside the mutual fund would trade. And then whatever pricing ends at the end of the day, then you'd recalculate what the share price was. And then ETFs came along. The precursor, though, to ETFs were UITs, unit investment trusts. And Eaton Vance was big there. Van something or other was big there too. So how did Morgan Stanley get in the business, so to speak, of ETFs? They had these little micro transactions, a couple $100 million here, a couple $100 million there, and have a couple of ETF issuers that most people have never heard of. So they have 20 ETFs. Well, in the past 48 hours, they have now effectively filed for 3 ETFs that are crypto focused. Yeah. So in their ETF world at Morgan Stanley, crypto makes up 15% of their total ETF portfolio overnight, right? Overnight. So it's we've talked about it on this show, the pace and speed at which things are moving as crypto grows and finds its way deeper and deeper into the world of wealth management and the world of finance. It's accelerating, right? It keeps accelerating, and it's continues to be fascinating to watch. And Morgan Stanley doing that is even the Bloomberg ETF guys, both Eric and I forget the other one, Jeff, I think, who are the well-known Bloomberg, crypto ETF guys. Even they were surprised. They're like, "Holy cow, we know this was coming." And so, Morgan Stanley's got trillions of dollars in assets under management that are not custody assets, right? Yeah. So this is active management by financial advisors across the globe that are managing retail money anywhere between $1 million in an account to $500 million in an account for a particular family. They're making, asset allocation decisions every quarter, for these types of folks. And now they have product in house where they're going to say, we think you should have this amount of allocation. And here's the first, you should choose ours first because of these reasons, whatever those reasons happen to be.
Yeah. I think it's really even, important to look at the fact that they're doing this in spite of IBIT having as large a market share as it does, right? I mean, the fastest ETF to reach the level, faster than VU there and everything. And I mean, I think that's saying something. Really, you got this one who's barely in ETFs says, "Listen, we need our own ETF product."
Yeah.
The fact that IBIT's got this monster share here, so saying something about demand coming up.
Guess what ETFs they haven't applied for and filed S1s for? Gold or silver, right? So the demand for access to that type of stuff is not so loud that they have to then file ETFs for that stuff. I find I hadn't
even
thought
after
that
last year. Yeah.
Also, I think it's pretty great that Tillman's moniker today is late. He's just late. Right?
Well, at least he's owning up to it,
Well, I mean, I feel a little bit insulted that you guys started without me, but I'll leave that for after the show to address.
I'm sure you'll get over it.
And I didn't have any of the pretzels I requested in my trailer before the show either. Right? Which one of you guys failed on that side? That's why I was late. Actually, I had to run and get those. I can't come on the show.
They're not good for you, right? Pretzels. They're very bad for you.
Listen, the only thing that you can control is what you stick in your body. So,
how much you lose, right? Weight wise, right? How much
that's it. That's right.
That was a poorly worded sentence structure right there. That was
a well worded sentence structure. In fact, that's probably going to be the clip of
the only thing that you control is what you stick in your body.
Oh my God.
That's going on an Arch Public card out to our social media.
That's on the T-shirt at the company convention. Why are y'all talking about the worst people? Like if the whole financial markets were a high school prom, y'all are talking about the lamest people at the prom right now. Listen, the world has spoken
like a true jock there.
Listen, that's a low blow, Chris. I wasn't a typical jock, but I will tell you this. Have you guys been paying attention to what's going on with the silver market? Why are we not talking?
Man. Not at all. No.
Chris, are you serious or are you're being facetious? You've got to be being facetious.
Facetious, man. We check it every day, man. Every day. Yeah.
Well, I mean, listen, I think one thing that is the thread that paper markets can only last so long. And, what y'all were talking about ETFs, Bitcoin ETFs, they're great because they're settled in Bitcoin every day. The second they stop settling in Bitcoin every day, or the second that foundational trust is shaken, I think we will see a monumental spike in Bitcoin price. I really do believe that. And the reason for that is because silver's doing it right now. Silver has been one of the most, and I don't take my word for this. Do your own research. I'm not talking to you, Chris. Shut up. The silver market has been manipulated. Every big bank has gotten in trouble for it. I mean, it's like, lawsuit after lawsuit that's been settled and fines issued and blah, blah, blah. Why? Well, because there's a lot of important items that need to be produced using silver. It's a heavy industrial commodity. So it's good to drive cost of goods down, especially domestic cost of goods like semiconductor chips and solar panels and all those things. But on top of that, it's also the kin to gold as an inflationary measure. And, you want to control the inflationary rate or the perception of the inflationary rate through all of the correlated assets. Those were the strongest for a very long period of time. And there was kind of rules that everyone played by in the market. Like silver always stayed at about a 15 or 16 to 1, 15 to 20 to 1 ratio to gold. It's like that wasn't a rule that was made up. That was a rule that just didn't get broken for like 1800 years. Like all of humanity, basically, modern humanity. Then you go into, okay, silver right now is now the arbitrage loop has been broken. The global arbitrage loop has been broken. What do I mean by that? Well, China has said no more exports. It's of national security to hold silver. We are nationalizing it and no export rights. So, or very limited export rights. So now it's a one-way gate system. Silver can go into Beijing, but it cannot go out of Beijing. Well, what it's done is it's made two markets in what once was a one market economy. There was one price of silver that was agreed upon globally. And when if one market that had thin liquidity got disjointed, well, arbitrage got it back together. Arbitrage meaning that I would for a profit buy cheap silver in the cheap market, physically move it to the expensive market and sell it and make the spread, right? And I would secure my price before I even bought it so that it's just found money. I know what I'm making. I'm basically a glorified trucker with my own cargo now that I've already pre-sold. That's basically what the arbitrage method looks like. Well, the silver market, when one market gets out of whack, the arbitrage brings it back to equilibrium. Well, with a one-way gate into the largest market in the world, China produces more silver than any other country, and it's been buying hordes of it. What does that do? Well, it creates literally unhinged price. So physical silver in China, based upon what I've read, is selling above $100 an ounce. Physical silver here is selling at between 70 and 80, depending upon when you got in over the last week. It's been that volatile. So, there's probably a lot of arbitrage that's going on.
Uh-oh.
He was trying to make his point so much.
You need to change it from late to lost. Yeah.
Yeah. So there, silver.
Yeah. So back to the conversation regarding beards of Bitcoin, and not beards and rocks. No, I think what's interesting is Tillman. He was buying silver and talking about buying silver down in the 30s, like 31, right?
Okay, I haven't finished my point.
Okay.
The equilibrium hasn't been balanced. By the way, I'll give you one guess as to which employee decided to try to FaceTime me during our podcast that they all know about. One guess, Andrew. Maybe we should shout them out publicly. I'll tell you later who it was, but thank you for that. I would appreciate that. The arbitrage opportunity has been closed, though. And so if I sell my $72 silver to China for $100 an ounce, and I want that $30 an ounce spread, it doesn't leave China, which makes the avalanche bigger and compound the force of the disparity of price much, much quicker. So we've never seen this in the history. I've been listening to gold and silver bugs talk about this for literally my entire life. I'm 45 years old, and I can remember back when I was a 5, 6, 7-year-old kid hearing about this. And so it's just something to pay attention to. We've never seen it before. The last time gold broke $40 was when the Hunt brothers. So here's my point. If we're seeing the paper market of silver being exposed, it only proves the point of why holding Bitcoin is so valuable. And it proves that the market desires those types of assets. So whether it's silver, gold, Bitcoin, it's really showing you the strength of the fiat as much as it's in it showing you anything. And that's what I've been saying since day one is like, if you're going to buy Bitcoin, don't buy it because you are an orange, you're going to buy everything from here on out that's orange and you want to be a part of the orange community. It's the tribalism, blah, 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 blah. Don't do it because of that. I really don't believe that's a good reason. I think you buy it because it's proven to do something useful for you, which is to offset inflationary risk or preserve purchasing power or compound purchasing power, however you want to look at it, depending upon what time period you're looking at. All of that Bitcoin has done exceptionally well over a 17-year period. Same with gold, same with silver, some better than others over certain time periods. But the point is that the market is speaking, it's saying we want assets, not dollars. That's an important message. That is what I think is the message of the day. And if then you extrapolate that into, I made a tweet or whatever, a post about this earlier this week, but if you extrapolate that into some of the rare earth metals and the scarcity of those commodities against the need in AI and Bitcoin mining or crypto mining, you see a pinch point that just makes you go, wow, that's the pinch point. There's nothing that will limit the growth of AI more than the rare earth commodities, including silver, in my opinion. That's what's going on here. It's a war on information starting at the elemental level.
Now that's obviously longer term, but I think, and Andrew can correct me if I'm wrong here, I think BCOM is rebalancing coming up here in the next few days or something, isn't it? The Bloomberg Commodity Index. It's got something like 7.1 billion in silver that they'll probably have to sell to rebalance.
Well, there's also a very interesting headline that kind of snuck past us over the last few days about a huge silver smelting facility that's $7 billion plus facility that is a joint venture between JP Morgan and the Department of Defense that's being built in Clarksville, Tennessee. And, rumor has it that this bad character over in Venezuela had a bunch of silver and a bunch of Bitcoin too. If you just talk about all of the pieces of the puzzle on the board, if the Department of the Defense and JP Morgan Chase are partnered in a $7 billion endeavor to melt silver, you probably should pay attention to the silver market.
Yeah, but, I do think we might see a bit of a pullback here. More,
I think so too.
And you know what? I mean, come on, it rallied up almost $80. You got to take a breather every once in a while. If you zoom out to like a monthly chart, I mean, that thing's just like straight up.
Well, but it'll be like Bitcoin. The buy floor is going to be so damn strong. It's like, okay, it drops to $40 an ounce. You're not a buyer at 40, Chris? I mean,
right,
you know what I mean? Like, come away,
Like I said, this is to make sure that people are listening are going, oh my God, I need to go buy today. And they go, oh my God, it dropped $20 or $30 or something.
Oh no. Listen, it dropped $5 last night, I think. It's very volatile right now because we're in price discovery and it has no rules. It doesn't know where to go. It's just climbing.
So here's what I think is interesting. Just from a trader's standpoint here. I've seen more than a few things, and God, one of the worst places to get your information is from Twitter, guys. You have to have.
Yeah. Where are we broadcasting, Chris?
I'm just saying, man. I'm just saying. You have to have a background.
Listen, where's my knife so I can cut my nose off?
Here's the thing. But here's the thing. I've noticed there was a lot of accounts here recently talking about, oh my God, copper's up and gold's up and silver's up, and this is the worst thing could ever happen. Everything's about to go crashing and all this. I'm looking at it much more because of the way in which the rising is happening. It looks to me much more like the beginning of a commodity super cycle. And that then becomes interesting in terms of Bitcoin. Does it move more off the whole risk profile and move toward a commodity, or does it continue to do the same thing? And how does that affect it? I think that's going to be the interesting play.
I think Bitcoin is an opportunistic asset. I think whatever headline is the current headline of the day, it gets attached to the price movement. But the fundamental price movement is that it's the strongest indicator of inflation that's ever existed. So if you look at the inflation curve and you measure it since Bitcoin's inception, when did the inflation curve go parabolic? Well, when Bitcoin went parabolic, it's an indicator. It just look at it as the speedometer on your car dashboard. If you look down at the speedometer and you see 95 miles an hour, it means you're going fast. Well, if you look at Bitcoin's price and it's at $100,000, it means we're printing a lot of money. That's the equivalent. That's it. And guess what? The more money we print, the higher Bitcoin price is going to go. Why do I know that? Well, because there's this really cool thing called power laws, and it's just two things being compared against each other. So how do you do that? You take them and you put one in the numerator and one in the denominator, and you just measure that ratio over time, and you see what the curve looks like over time. Well, I urge you, if you have a cell phone, download Grok or AI, and ask it to plot the curve of inflation, and ask it to plot the growth curve of Bitcoin, and ask it to then plot the growth curve of real estate and gold and silver, all those things, and just look at it on your phone, and you'll see Bitcoin's more accurate than all the rest of them, because there's less it's less manipulated than the rest of them. Now that's changing, and we have seen the 4-year cycle kind of die in that regard, but we still look at Bitcoin and go, okay, if we're printing money, Bitcoin's price is going to go up. That's my bet. It's not that Bitcoin is going to be used to buy Snickers bars in America 20 years from now. That's not my bet. There may be a lot of people that are betting that way, but it's not me.
Sounds like a Kalshi or a poly market kind of prediction market bet that's coming up here.
Well, the integration of those markets is already, I mean, I'm in all of these markets, and, betting and props and all these things are now being natively integrated. It's at your fingertips. So.
Well, like Coinbase said the other day, was saying over Brian Armstrong over there tweeted out, I still say tweet, whatever, posted. He mentioned Coinbase wanting, on its march here toward being the exchange of everything, the everything exchange, and so, and that's something you guys have really been bringing up a lot here over the last year and a half, is this idea that these, crypto exchanges, these big ones like Coinbase, even pulling up things like Robinhood, are going to become the de facto places in which you do all these various things, in which banks will then have to become a part of, rather than the banks kind of taking the technology and trying to extend themselves beyond it. So I think that's
I think it's more disruptive than that. I think that's the phase we're in right now. But what we really are seeing is redefining what a bank is. And so you go, okay, what has been a bank? Well, in the bank of my childhood, it was a brick and mortar building on every corner with an ATM drive-through. That's what a bank was. And that's why it was used, because that's what its primary function was, is to go get cash, because we were a cash-based society. Everything's digital now. Everything's moved digital, whether you're using Cash App or whether you're using crypto. It kind of all feels the same now. So you say, okay, well, what's a bank now? Well, it's not the bank on the corner with the ATM drive-through. It's the Robinhoods of the world. And so the question is really, how quickly can legacy acquire? Because if they don't, they're dead, in my opinion. Because if I can create a bank, Tillman, and I have the knowledge base that I have based upon my experience in the crypto space, versus even take the biggest banks, like I'll go head to head with the head of, Wells Fargo's crypto division in terms of knowledge. I really would. I don't say that cockily. I say that because I've listened to these guys in speeches and I'm going, whoa, they've got a lot to learn. They don't even know really what Bitcoin is. They don't even know the fundamentals of what it is. They know the price appreciation. They are technical traders at their core. Because if you ask them, any fundamental thing about the network itself, and they can't answer it, they don't know they don't even know what a UTXO is, which is literally Bitcoin 101 class. So if you don't know what a UTXO is, you probably shouldn't be the head of integrating Bitcoin into your company.
UTXO, I don't know. It sounds like you're trying to move some University of Texas stuff in there, man. I don't know. Trying to, pump your alma mater there,
What starts here changes the world, Chris. Have you not heard that?
Hey, listen. So here's the other thing. So, the big kind of news is Morgan Stanley there for Bitcoin last week. The other big news recently here, MCSI says, what?
Not last week, Chris. It's not last week. It was 2 days ago.
This
past
week,
this stuff is moving.
Week.
Yeah. Okay.
Come on, follow with me here.
Uh-huh.
But my point there is there were so many people on Twitter that were like, oh my God, MicroStrategies, that's the end of them. That's it. Even which wasn't even the case, even if they were excluded from the MCSI, right? But now, and this is what I was talking to Andrew about earlier, was that now you got people on here. I hate scrolling X, I'll tell you. But I got people on there now that now it's a big, huge, this is all Morgan Stanley because MCSI used to be part of Morgan Stanley, like 20 years ago. And so Morgan Stanley caused all this happen. So Morgan Stanley can, get these ETFs going at $90,000 or $80,000. I mean, it's just, it's the craziest thing, right? So I bring this up because I posted this. I made this post on X the other day, and basically what it says is, listen, it isn't actually news that drives price. It's who is able to trade at that time, who's not constrained when that news is coming out, right? And like 4,000 views on it. I looked at.
Let's boil that down for the layman because that sounded like a wrench in a machine.
This is exactly what I mean.
Keep your powder dry. If you don't have powder dry, you're going to miss opportunities that are the opportunities. Everything else is noise compared to those opportunities. And let me tell you, if you get known as the guy who has cash, deals start coming to you on those fronts. And that's literally the nature of the beast. You make your money when you buy, not when you sell.
Chris, do you and Fibo have some sort of relationship that you need to disclose? Because he's saying here that his bank looks like a good-looking 55-year-old. I don't know if he's talking about you or I don't know what's going on there. Is there some sort
I'm not 55, man.
Okay,
so.
Well, the bigger question is are you calling Chris good-looking, Andrew? Because I definitely would not have appropriated that comment to Chris.
Oh my gosh, man! Controversy.
In fact, I'd guess I was 55 before I'd guess he was the handsome one. Chris, that's not at your expense.
He's 100% at my expense.
He's not laughing at you. He's laughing with you. That's what's happening here.
You got to wait till I
The only thing that you can control in life is how many enemies you make on Twitter. That is the one thing.
Chris froze in a very.
I love it.
Oh man!
Hey, that budget with Twitter is paying off, Andrew. I like how they strategically froze Chris in that precarious spot. That was awesome.
I'm still stuck on. Tillman mentioned the term smelting about 7 or 8 minutes ago, and I don't think we use that term enough in life.
Well, let me ask you this, Andrew.
Uh-huh.
The two other terms that you probably should have paid attention to, yet you chose smelting as the one to focus on, was J.P. Morgan and the Department of Defense. Just Google those in
Well,
Clarksville, Tennessee, and let me know if smelting is the key word in that
The
equation.
reason why smelting made an impression is because I know from my own personal experience and history that gold member happened because of an unfortunate smelting accident.
This has to be some movie reference that I don't understand.
You don't know this?
And so
Hey,
it was truly an unfortunate smelting accident. So, yeah, that to me, that seems more meaningful.
Have y'all received positive or negative feedback on all the movie references? Because I'm still on the
positive.
no. It's the
Somebody
same.
just said-
It's the same usual suspects, though. It's Fib, and Colin.
I'm more embarrassed that you didn't get the reference, Tillman. I mean, really,
Yes.
I'm more embarrassed about that than anything else right now. Okay.
Listen, I don't have time for that junk. That is, listen, that is the. Hey, ask any kid these days. That's where brain rot started. That is the definition of brain rot right there. Okay. So, I'm sorry. I don't like to rot my brain with worthless things.
True. I remember, I don't know how old I was. I was probably in my mid to late 20s, and I took my dad to the movies to see an Austin Powers movie. And about halfway through, he's like, I can't believe you're laughing at this stuff.
That's what I mean.
Can't believe that we're sitting here and you're making me sit through this. I'm like, this is the funniest thing on the planet. What are you talking about?
Our dad's
it's like beauty. It's in the eye of the beholder. I don't find every comedian funny.
Also, a comment from JoJo Crawdaddy, which, by the way, is very, very well, positioned grammatically. So, whomever smelt it, felt it. I don't know if the last part of that is correct. It should be dealt with, but whomever is well done.
Whomever smelt it, felt it is what he wrote.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
Silver
seems out of place. I got to be honest. Felt it seems out of place, but the whomever is really well done in that sentence. I'm impressed. Yeah.
Hey, JoJo's a great guy, man. He's with us over at TWC. He's a fantastic guy. So
JoJo Crawdaddy, baby.
And he's going to get all these references too. That's the great thing. He's experienced.
He's our people. Then is what he is. He's our people, right?
That's right. That's right. He's our audience. There we go.
Listen, our people. That's. It's like if people are like a Venn diagram. Let's just find the parts of the circle that line up, and we'll forget about the rest. Because
should I say, Chris, what I said right before we got onto the show about, I could make the show real boring for the next 6 months and just basically say Bitcoin is nearly completely controlled by ETFs right now and probably going forward.
You just said it.
And that, and we can talk about a million things, but that's really what it gets down to.
It really is what it boils down to, right? I mean, ETF flows with institutional interest so big into Bitcoin, it really is.
Yeah.
It is your
drives to the point that we've been talking about, and I think I said this on the first show with great ridicule from some of the people on this show. I won't mention names. That eventually spot price of physical Bitcoin and ETFs will have a disjointed price. They have to, because one has intrinsically more value than the other in terms of settlement risk. So, we're going to see if the ETFs continue to rule the price. No different than the silver market. It took 40 years for the silver market to do this. There will be an unhinging point because the paper ultimately isn't Bitcoin. That's the point. And so how long it takes for the market conditions to prove that point, no one knows. But by God, it will be proven, because what can be shaken will be shaken. That's literally what the markets are.
And this reminds me real quick. This reminds me of something that what happened with Venezuela here in the markets reminds me of something that a point that Andrew's made more than a few times here, through our show here the last year and a half. But these big geopolitical events having little to no reaction in the markets, right?
No.
Where else would we have done what we did in Venezuela? What other period in time would we have done that? And the market would have been on Monday would have been like, hey, you know what? We just did that, but let's go up, right?
Let's talk about the Venezuela thing for a second, because I always like to be educated, and Andrew has a unique perspective based upon his fiance and where she's from Venezuela, and like she's been posting really recently a lot in Spanish, so I didn't understand it. I had to translate it. But I was curious. Like I'm a dumb American that has really like I understand some geopolitical things, but they're really all finance related. They're not culture. They're not leader related. They're not even historically, related. And so to hear her perspective of it, I think it's needed. I think a lot of people in America find themselves in the same spot I was at the beginning of this, which is like, number one, did this guy, like, this seems like it's going to start a war. That was the first thing. I was like, dang, man, what the guy do? Then I found out what he kind of did, and I found out how it all went down, and it was completely justified, from what I can tell now, more than justified. This guy's a war criminal and have caused a lot of pain in a lot of people's lives, and have ignored the people to preserve his own power, and it's now coming back on him to roost. But I do think we don't have a perspective like she does, and it was helpful for me to hear that perspective. Andrew, do you want to elaborate on that at all?
I've heard so much about it, right, from the time her and I met until now. That both Chavez first and then Maduro second were just, communist, brutal dictators that stripped everything away from a once very productive and frankly the richest Latin American country in South America before 25 years of communist policies became part of their daily lives. So things that I, would be blown away with is she'd tell me a story about, well, yeah, when it comes to like air conditioning and whatever, I can handle if it's hot or if it's cold because, 4 years ago, there'd be times where there'd be no electricity. Nothing was working for like 4 days in a row, and it's the middle of summer. And so we would actually sleep outside at nighttime because it was cooler than it would be in the house. And then we'd go back into the house. Or the idea that it's kind of crazy that the street lights and, red lights, yellow lights, green lights always work in the United States because they almost never work on the streets of Venezuela. They exist, but 80% of the time they're not even.
Well, translate that for us. It's like they're the richest South American country with all this wealth, but none of it goes to support public interests. But it's even more than that. Like they're literally stealing from their citizens and taking, confiscating bank accounts, and it's a free for all. There is no.
There's a bifurcated economy. So if you go into any grocery store, you have the price of that item in both dollars and the Venezuelan currency, right? So you have both. You're not, those grocery stores are not legally supposed to do that based on the laws from the government, the corrupt government, but they have to do it. It's hard to describe how messed up it was for people and why. They had 35 million people that lived there, and 8 million people over the past 9 years have left. 8 million people. And by the way, those 8 million people, they all didn't have the ability to move. Some of them just moved like to El Salvador or to Uruguay or Paraguay, which aren't even meaningful steps up, right? Yeah. But at least they have the ability to earn more than $10 a month, or have to clap and not look at certain things on social media so that they get their box of food from the government each month. yeah, it's kind of hard to comprehend all the things that have gone on there. She showed me another story that talked about their military and the idea. Well, why didn't the people rise up or the military rise up and take care of things in Venezuela? Well, Venezuela does have a military, but they have 2,000 generals in their military, and that's on purpose, right? It's on purpose because you have one guy at the top, then you have 2,000 generals, and about another 50,000 people that are underneath those generals. So obviously, to make a coup happen, right here in the United States, we have way fewer generals than 2,000, by the way. You have to have at least half of those generals agree to that coup and to take out the government to make that happen. Well, if you've got 2,000 of them, how are you going to get 1,001 to all agree to the same
Well,
thing?
and if you're hoarding all the wealth and then distributing to those 2,000, you're going to be able to buy loyalty at a rate that will keep you in power forever. And that's what they do. It's, it's like, well, that's where all the money goes. That's
and local police, it's well known that all you have to do is have a little bit of U.S. currency. You get stopped by the police, you're not really getting stopped by the police. The police, that guy that day just needs some extra money. So it's well known, if you hand him $5 or $10, whatever he supposedly stopped you for just goes away. And that's just how the system works. If you need a license or you need anything that has to do with, you got to go to the government to get it, you don't actually take the driver's test. You don't actually do any of that stuff. You just pay somebody there some American dollars and they give it to you. So it's, it's an underground economy because what's above ground is just completely destroyed and corrupt, just corrupt across.
And we have that thing, all throughout the world. I mean, it's not obviously not just Venezuela, but a lot of Americans that haven't traveled, or done a lot of research outside the U.S. don't even understand this. You can even look at places like over in Africa, right? Like Kenya and a few other countries, especially over there. It's the same idea, right? The corruption is rampant all throughout the government. And people are like, well, why don't you just get rid of your president? And then again, because it's systemic, right? It's systematic. It's all throughout all levels of government. People are so poor that when they get in there, they're going to use their ability to, like you said, get money, right? If you get stopped by the police, you're like, hey, here's a couple of bucks. Basically, the police are like, okay, move on. If you need to go to the government to get some kind of paperwork and you don't want to be there at 5 a.m. and wait, 5 hours just to get to the front of the line, you paying more money, they'll move you right up to the front of the line.
Her family that lives here now, they send stuff back to people that live there. And the only way that you can do that is you get a big box, a box that would look like you got something in it, right? A big box. And you put a bunch of stuff in it, and it usually gets there inside about 2 to 3 months. There's a system. There's a guy in almost every city in the United States that knows how to get the boxes to the port and then put on a thing that's not going to get checked and will find its way to Venezuela and then find its way to the people there. I have no idea how that even happens, but that's how they do it. By the way, most of what they put in those boxes is food. Yeah. Food, guys, food. So, if that's the
I was talking all of that can be true. And so, the humanitarian effect of the actions that were taken, we hope will lend itself to a lot of good, right? That's what the intention is. That's what you hope the heart motive is. That's the primary driver. The secondary driver, let's call it, is definitely economic. Sure. A lot of oil, lot of oil, well, that's what I was just going to, Fibo. So the way I look at this is it's a game of chess on a board. And what I think Trump's driving towards is to control a corridor. And if you look at Venezuela as being the center point of control on the southern corridor, and you look at Greenland being the center point of control on the northern corridor, you control shipping traffic for a section of the earth that allows you to do exactly what China did with silver, but for anything you want.
Yeah.
Stuff can come in the corridor, but can't come out of the corridor. If it does come in, it gets a lot of incentives to come in. If it goes out, high tax rate, a lot of disincentives. Like all these global macroeconomic mechanisms all go back to the root issue of control, right? And controlling a territory as long as from Greenland down to Venezuela from a shipping perspective is all of the chessboard in control. And so, I think it's going to be, it's an extension of the tariff move, right? The tariff is a control mechanism that's based upon geopolitics and based upon money. This is the same thing. And when you talk about shipping oil and you talk about shipping goods, that's a massive, massive move. And it's not, Venezuela was chosen, I believe, because of the mutual good that it does, economic, for the people, all of the above. But the bigger game is the North American Union, basically. And, if you're looking at like Europe as a massive economy where lots of arbitrage, lots of trading, lots of commerce gets done very efficiently because of the geographical proximity, we have the same benefits right here. We just don't take advantage of them. And it's because of the nature of the politics south of the border. There's not very many political regimes that are aligned with ours from a capital perspective, from a capitalism perspective. And, that's now changed. And you like it or love it or hate it, I think the Venezuelan people are going to make a lot of money, right? They're going to lose a lot of culture, but they're going to make a lot of money. But that's the nature of globalism, honestly. Everybody has to give up a little bit. It is what it is. That's progress. It's no different than like if you go into a neighborhood and you buy a house and you love the neighborhood and then you complain about a bunch of people developing around the neighborhood. Well, they want to love their neighborhood too, guys. That's the nature of capitalism. And when there's a way to make money, it's going to fill that vacuum.
Yeah, I got Polar Knights here saying, why would an oil company invest $100 billion in a country when the best year of investment return was $3.3 billion? And it says, and the raw oil is hard to refine. Well,
yeah, ask Chevron. They've been there for forever.
Yeah, they've been the ones that are still there, right? Yeah, they were the ones that didn't get booted out.
Yeah, and they've been doing it, and now everybody will come do it too. I mean, the best way to quantify how Venezuelans feel about what happened, and then Donald Trump, like, she's showing me stuff about just dozens and dozens of people on comments saying, here's in the next 5 years, here are the most, here are the baby names that are going to happen. And it's like Donaldo Cruz and, it's all having to do with Donald Trump, right? I mean, that's how excited they are. And the reason why they're excited is, hey, we don't care if you do all you want to do with the oil. Yes, please come in, do all the stuff with the oil, but share some of it with us.
Yep.
Give us some jobs, and you can't imagine the difference in life that will create here in Venezuela. That's the way that they're thinking. One, it's kind of sad, but that's 25 years.
Well, it's sad because it shows you how bad they've been ignored, basically. But let me address Polar Knight's question a little bit deeper. I'm from the oil patch, born and raised in Houston, Texas. My dad's from Odessa. I know enough to be dangerous, as they say. Not an expert by any means, but I will tell you the reason why a company would want that is for one word: reserves. Reserves, if you look at the Permian Basin, for example, and you go, what was the production 50 years ago versus today? It's not even, the curve is literally looks like an exponential straight up line. And the reason is because technology gets more oil out of the ground every year that it advances. And so there's these new innovations that are coming down. Like when I was a boy, the biggest innovation that ever had been heard of, it was discovered in my youth, was horizontal drilling, which means, instead of there, let's just imagine there's a reservoir of oil right here. You dip a straw down into it. That's the traditional well.
Yep.
So the straw, it's all about like, how deep do I go? How much pressure is in there? All that stuff. Horizontal drilling was like, let's drill over here, and then let's put a straw through the entire pay zone and put holes in the pipe all along that pipe so that we're pulling from the entire pay zone instead of dipping into the top of it like a straw. Well, you can't imagine the amount of reserves that unlocked. You couldn't get that oil out of the ground before that technology, and you can after. So all of the problems that you see with sludge and the hard refineries and all that stuff, those problems get easier and easier to solve every single day, while oil gets scarcer and scarcer and more valuable every single day. Those two curves work for you over long periods of time. So the answer to your question is when you have two curves that work to your advantage and you can put $100 billion on them, so that's an incredible bet. That's the best bet you can make.
And then let's not, gloss over the fact that the U.S. refineries down here in Texas and Louisiana and whatnot, we got like 6 of them are built, actually designed to deal with that heavy crude, which is why when we were doing the whole thing with the snow Mexicans, I mean Canadians, when we were doing that thing and they were like, oh, well, we'll just send our oil somewhere else because they've got that really bad oil there with the sand and all that. And we were just like kind of laughing, like,
have fun.
Right, but
but those take 10 years to build. We'll see you next decade. You know what I mean? Like, that's insane. Those plants are.
Now I know where that comes from. My nickname in college was Heavy Crude, and I never could make the connection. I had some Texas teammates on the basketball team. But Heavy Crude, all right, that makes sense.
Hard to deal with, hard to refine, toxic at every level, but there's value there. Yeah, that's a great assessment. That was.
Listen, I teed it up for you, Tillman. I really did.
And we're talking about all this, and I think people try to make it too easy, right? I think everybody's like one thing. Oh, it's about the oil. That's why Venezuela. Or oh, it's about the 600,000 Bitcoin shadow reserve, or it's about what. But I think really at the end of the day, I think the biggest thing about Venezuela is this whole idea that just based on what the U.S. has been doing, how their military is positioned, it seems more like it's listen, we're going to focus on the Western Hemisphere here. We're going to try and
if I knew a cartel member was living next to me and they were running cocaine in large quantities out of the house next to me, and there was $200 million in cash sitting in there, and I was watching the news one day and the FBI said wanted, and I go, holy crap, that's my neighbor. Is it good for my neighborhood that I get rid of that criminal activity? Yeah. Absolutely. Would I be on every news channel telling you that was my motive? Absolutely. But I'd be getting that reward, and I'd have my lawyers checking with the FBI on when I got it. You know what I mean? Like, both can be true at the same time.
It shouldn't be lost from a political standpoint that the raid and the whole thing took place while the Chinese delegation was there meeting with Maduro. It shouldn't be lost that our military took out nearly all of the both Russian and Chinese weaponry that existed in and around that military compound. It shouldn't be lost on everybody that the tomb where Chavez is laid that constitutes that is kind of a point of power in Venezuela for that government, that dictatorial government, was completely wasted with bombs. All of those things kind of work together to create a narrative. And so there are a lot of angles. There's economic angles, there's political angles, there's, geographical angles. There's a lot of things going on here, and there's benefits kind of all around the board.
Well, and there's a massive one that we haven't mentioned, which is this interesting group of nations called BRICS.
Yep.
Venezuela has been begging to be in BRICS for a very long time.
Correct.
And who was it that blocked them? Brazil blocked them at the last BRICS summit, and it was only Brazil that kind of threw up they've
cozied right up to China and Russia, who are the main players in the BRICS
of BRICS. So if you're going to take over, one in South America that controls the corridor, two that has a corrupt regime that's going to be good for the people, three that's going to poke China and Russia in the eye and BRICS in the eye from an oil reserve perspective, four, probably acquire a lot of Bitcoin for the National Strategic Reserve, oil reserves, and silver mining reserves. You put that whole thing together, and we should have been talking about this before it happened, honestly. I mean, it's
there was another political point that I saw was made that I thought was interesting and that I agreed with. And it has to do, with domestic politics as well. The way that the shifts and changes have happened almost institutionally in politics here in the United States has made it very, very difficult for Trump and his team to get things done domestically, right? To get a bill through, to do things at the federal state level without some crazy liberal judge stepping in and screwing everything up and halting it right in its tracks. Whereas geopolitically, they're completely unfettered, right? So make a move like Venezuela, nobody can stop them. Doesn't even have to tell Congress. They can shout all they want about it, but goes and gets the thing done, and there's lots of benefits across the board. I don't think we've seen the last of this in the next 3 years because of that reason, that there are big wins that are kind of easily available to this administration, whereas domestically, it is being fought at every single turn with that institutional rot politically inside of the United States. Interesting times and interesting outcomes. And I'm fascinated to see what happens. I've told Cynthia many, many times, I'm like, it's going to be messy for a while. And every time she's just like, sure, okay, no problem. But it's not what it was a week ago.
And better, yeah.
And listen, she has a cousin that she's really close with down there. They talk on FaceTime every day, and she hasn't talked to her in 4 or 5 days. And the reason is because the cousin right now, they have to be very, very careful about who they interact with on social media, because at nearly every corner of every stop in every city, there are guys with guns that are still part of the military that think that there's a chance that if Maduro comes back, I don't want to be the guy that switched teams because I'm going to get hung.
Yeah.
So they're still checking their phone. They're not there to grab money from people. They're not there to steal from those people. They're checking their phones. And if their phones have any sort of information associated with what happened, they take them to jail. So they've got to lay low for a while. It's very difficult for us as Americans to understand any of that because we haven't
had to deal with it. Yeah, that's completely out of anything we've ever had to even come close to functionally deciding on or in our personal lives or dealing with. Yeah, and that's a lot of it. Again, that's that point I bring up. I was fortunate enough to grow up. My dad was in the Navy.
Mm-hmm.
He spent a career in there, so I've lived throughout the world, Japan and other places, and so growing up, it wasn't just U.S., it wasn't just wherever. Now, it was still more of a military mindset, right? Very, very pro-military at the time growing up. But, I got to see how people in other countries living under different systems, grew up and things they had to deal with. And, it makes it easier to understand, what's going on with Venezuela. It's like, you see these people online and they're like, these protests, like, oh, we stand with the Venezuelan people, free Maduro. And I'm like, the Venezuelan people are streets that he was. How disconnected do you have to be with
Well,
reality?
that's why I brought it up, because I was disconnected too. I don't blame people for being disconnected. It's not, even though it's in our backyard, we don't talk about these things very often. I didn't even know that whole situation existed, honestly. But it is important to talk about it, and it is important from not just a pro USA perspective, but from a pro human perspective, to understand, kind of what's going on near and dear to our country. And it's not that far from us, guys. I mean, it's literally a hop, skip, and a jump down the street. And the fact that we aren't economically co-joined or partners, or at least some synergies being realized between the two countries, that should be a big indicator that, even I'm going to use it as my own personal indicator that I'm going to use to kind of investigate other foreign countries and what their foreign policies look like and their leaders look like. But that's got to change if we're going to be competitive in a global market, for sure.
Do you see this here, man? Do you see this comment? I'd like to donate some money to you because your weed is taking over the house. You need a good garden, man.
Listen, there's a thing.
I love our listeners, man, our viewers. I love them, man. They're so great.
I married my junior high sweetheart. She is the best part of my life by a long shot. And whatever makes her happy, if it doesn't, what my estimate tells me is leading us down a bad path, I say yes. And that is, I got a big bow and some garland for the holidays put behind me on the mantle. So every time I look and see it in the camera, I just I think that's of her. So
your heart warms and your love for her grows exponentially.
Well, it's just not about me. That's the point. Andrew, that's directed at you, buddy. I need you to focus more on me and less on you.
Probably less on you. So there we are, guys. I mean, it's been an eventful beginning to the year. I think here, everything from precious metals to industrial metals to Bitcoin to regimes. I
think we need to change the name of the show maybe to like Men in Markets, bringing masculinity back to markets. That's it right there. Yeah.
By the way, Chris, we're going to be in New York City the week of February 9th through the 13th. Our Arch Public is the title sponsor for Bitcoin Investor Week, the Pompliano conference that gets put on every year. And we'd love to have you out there. If you can make a trip out, we'd love to have you and host you and put you up in a hotel room. And Melker's going to be there for several days as well. So you guys could do your, fun little, writing on charts thing, that show. You do one of those from there. And we'd love to have you out. Anybody that's a listener too, if you end up at that event, come find us. We'd love to host you and spend some time with you and have a really good time.
Well, really glad to know that y'all will be there. I sit here and I question sometimes with Mandini over there, what all is still going to happen in New York City, with the strides he's taken already. He's gonna make FIFA tickets available for everybody. It doesn't matter that they're not even going to be playing in New York City or whatnot. He's going to use it to do that. And
you'll find that the likes of theater kids, nothing against current theater kids, but theater kids cosplaying as mayors and folks in government aren't all that effective.
Well, I think technically it's in New Jersey, isn't it?
It is in New Jersey.
The FIFA thing,
that very well may be the reason. But yeah, it's at Pier 60 in New Jersey. Beautiful.
No. Our deal is in Chelsea. It's in Chelsea. It's in New York City proper. So
are you sure?
Yeah, Pier 60. Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
For sure. Because New Jersey is right.
He told me, he's like, okay, I'm going to go check it up here. Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it just shows you, again, listen, this is like movie references. I don't focus on these details. I'm worried. I'm worried about silver squeezes, man.
I spent way too much in time in New York City, my previous life and previous company. And I also know that from Pier 60 and the glass that's there, you can see Weehawken. And what people don't know about Weehawken is you may think that the sort of the financial capital world is in on Wall Street, but where it's really happening is across the river in Weehawken. Like every meaningful financial company has their operations over in Weehawken, New Jersey, just across one.
You're exactly right.
Yeah.
It's actually technically in Manhattan still, which is also surprising. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So he acted real surprised. Did you hear him?
Well, surprising.
Right.
Yeah.
Listen, a blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while. I mean, just have you ever watched one of those blind albino squirrels out in the yard and they just run around, and the owls are actually up in the trees laughing and telling jokes about them? Like, are you guys, which one of you guys are going to actually eat that thing?
All right. Well, that'll do it, guys. We covered a lot more than I planned to actually cover in this episode. So I appreciate you guys' thoughts on things and whatnot. And,
the only thing you can control is how much you lose. So
yeah, that's right. Exactly. And 2026 is really, setting up to be something. I'll tell you what, it's really looking interesting. So all I can say is, guys, listen, again, let's go back to what I posted the other day. When it comes to markets and prices and stuff like that, it's not the news that actually moves it. It's who's not constrained to be able to act on that news when it happens.
That's the new saying of the show now? Is that the new?
I think that sounds like a Bruno Mars song. It's not the news that moves you. That is a great song lyric right there. I'm gonna get to work on that with AI this afternoon.
I was about to say, you're gonna jump on some AI.
Yeah.
Well,
it's not the news that moves me.
All right, listen, I appreciate y'all joining us. As always, I think we enjoy this at least as much as hopefully you do. We'll be back next week, every Wednesday, 11 a.m. Central, 12 p.m. Eastern. And we'll keep, we've always got something to say. So you may not like it, but hopefully we'll keep coming back. You're bound to find something along the way that you'll enjoy. Snow Mexicans, he said. All right. So, hey, listen, I appreciate you guys joining me every week here. As always, have so much fun. Look forward to seeing you guys next week. Everybody else as well. And remember, as Tillman let you know earlier, the only thing you control is how much you lose. All right. Don't make him a liar on that.
You're getting really close to not saying it one of these times.
Yeah, you are. We're working into that territory, Andrew. For sure.
You had me on today. I was like, is he?
Well, I appreciate, Andrew, the effort of what you're doing right now, which is disrupting the fact that it's not only that he likes to say it, but he likes to end the show with it. He doesn't like any other word said after that. So I appreciate the fact we're just throwing a massive disruption into his ego, and he's going to have to wrestle with this until next Wednesday.
We'll do it again then. We'll just keep going. We'll keep trying again.
No, the only thing you can control in life is lots of stuff, okay? So if you want to hear more about those things, come back and talk to us, and we'll be here talking about them.
See y'all next week. Take care, everybody.
See you guys.
Trading tip: always manage risk before chasing gains.